welcome to the presentation. In this one we are going to be discussing the CSI Linux tools that can vary from dark web, incident response, computer forensics, mobile forensics, a few things on virtualization and threat intelligence as well. So let's get into a little bit of an introduction, and then we're going to get into the tools that are featured within the distribution. My name is Siegfried Vanderwee. Here within CSI Linux, I am a security researcher, educator, author, content creator, and as Mr. Jeremy Martin likes to call me, an international man of mystery. That will probably be discussed a little later on. And some of the things that I enjoy to do along with my specialties are the following: malware analysis, incident response, digital forensics, and dark web investigation. A little bit behind that, however, incident response is because when there's a problem, a lot of people tend to come to me for help, and that's one of the things I love to do, is just be able to figure out what the problem was, make sure it does not happen again, and to make sure that whatever the result of that problem was, it's completely cleaned up. And one of my other things that you'll notice here for the dark web investigation, I've got 3 children. And when I first started with Mr. Martin and CSI Linux back in November of 2021, well, the thing that caught my attention the most is what was on the dark web, what's really going on in our society, what's going on around the world. And to be completely blunt, it turned my stomach. I actually had to go to the washroom and I was physically ill. So having kids and knowing what's really going on, I want to be in the future one of the people that helps to put a true stop on what is really going on. And hopefully, for those of you that have not yet taken our dark web investigation course and our certification class, if you do, I really hope that it does become a true eye-opener for you. So, CSI Linux is an open source digital investigation platform. What that means is whether you're doing open source investigations online just for whether it be for curiosity or for cyber investigations because it's a part of your daily job, CSI Linux is there for you. It's there to help. And who is CSI Linux for? Well, this is an interesting one to answer because it's not just, as you can see here, for cybersecurity analysts, law enforcement, journalists, researchers, intel communities. This can be for people who are just starting to learn out Linux, who want to see what else is out there besides your traditional Microsoft Windows environment. This is a very good thing to be able to learn and to be able to grow on. And honestly, it's something I've done now over the past year or so, I would say. And it has to be the best thing that I've devoted my time to, because I feel as if I've progressed so much just by coming onto the CSI Linux platform in the beginning as a student, and now I'm here as one of the educators and content creators for the company, which is a very, very big change. And when you see here who is CSI Linux for, there's one more thing I have to add on that I just found out recently that is very, very exciting. Interpol, the international police here around the world, they actually actively use this distribution to be able to help them with their day-to-day work and being able to find all the cyber criminals and being able to help bring these kids back home that are in places where they really should not be. If we look down at the third box here on the bottom, what makes CSI different? Well, CSI, what makes it different is Mr. Martin, we have a Discord. It's a community Discord. We're always there. We're always active. We're always taking input, suggestions, and we're listening to everybody within the community. So when people come to us that work in different fields of forensics, and they have ideas for different things for case management or different ideas on what other tools we can put into the distribution to bring everything all together, well, you say it, we listen, We work together with our community, and that's one of the biggest things that puts us aside from every other distribution that you will find, along with the forensic focused and customized tools. As you can see there, it also says including case management, which is something that I just brought up a moment ago. And within our Discord, we have special places for everything, especially case management. So if you're listening to this and you're watching our conference and you think this is for you, but you decide to go ahead, you download the virtual machine, and you decide to take a look, and you think, okay, well, maybe this is for me, but at the same time it's not because it's missing a couple of tools, or you need an extra thing or two added on to the case management system, no problem. Come on over into Discord, which we'll share at the end of our presentation today, or at the end of our conference today, or even better yet, head on over to the description part in the YouTube channel just below, and we should have a Discord link there for you. Come on in, let us know what you need, who you are, what your background is, and we'll try and get everything sorted out for you as best we can. Now, the topics that you see here, right around the fingerprint, is more or less the popular things of what we like to use for CSI Linux. So we have open source intelligence and we have social media intelligence. Open source intelligence, when you're in our distribution, you can find people by their name. So if you were to type in my name on there, you would see I have a Facebook account, you would see that I'm on Steam, which is where I tend to play my games with my friends and family. The same thing with Battle.net and a few other things. And then social media, like I said a moment ago, you see I got Facebook, I've got LinkedIn. I used to have Twitter ages ago, but I don't use it anymore. Dark web investigation, as I mentioned, as we got this panel here started. It is a big thing of what we do. We try and eliminate a lot of what's going on the dark web by using this distribution. So if you'd like to join us on that, we're going to have a special part here in CSI Linux just dedicated to dark web investigations coming up within 2023. So I do invite you to keep an eye open for that one. Cyber threat hunting. There are many, many threats that go on around the world every day, to a point I don't think I'd actually be able to give you a proper number. That would have to be more research done into it. And then we have malware analysis. The amount of threats, not just threats I would say, but there are viruses, there's ransomware, there's a lot of things that are on the web. And just as, the regular internet doesn't have to be the dark web. And people are clicking here, there, and everywhere, and they're getting their systems infected, as I would say, 6 ways from Sunday. And a good example of that would be my stepfather. Within a matter of, I think it was 7 or 8 months, he managed to get his computer locked with ransomware 6 times. And he's not really, it's not that he's not a safe person on the computer. He likes to click a lot. And when it comes down to malware analysis, which is going to tie up in with our incident response and digital forensics just above, that's a lot of end user education. So that's where people who, whether they don't read any computer books or whether they don't follow any videos, that's where that comes in. So if you've got friends or family that are, whether it be new to computers, phones, or tablets, and they're using the internet a lot, that's where a lot of education and friendly advice is going to come in. Today we're going to be working on getting CSI Linux up and running with an Oracle VirtualBox. So the first thing that we're going to need to get started is for you to head on over to csilinux.com and then to the download section. Please keep in mind that in the description of the video you'll have all of the links that you'll need, so you won't have to pause and replay the video from time to time in order to be able to follow along properly. Now, if you go down here on the left-hand side to Virtual Appliances, we'll be using the first one that's here, VirtualBox Virtual Appliance. As you see right below that, we have another one called VMware Virtual Appliance, which will be covered in a later video. So you would hit either Direct Download, or you can go to Direct Download Mirror if you'd be using a torrent downloader. And we already have everything previously downloaded. So we're going to go over to the VirtualBox website, which is virtualbox.org. You're going to hit the blue button here on the front, and then this here depends on what kind of host you're using. It could be a Windows computer, it could be a different Linux distribution, it could be a Solaris, it could be a OS X. For this purpose, we're actually using a Windows computer, which again, we already have this part here downloaded. And before we leave this page, this right here is what you'll also need to download. It's for all supported platforms. It is the extension pack. This gives other tools such as copy and paste from your regular desktop into the virtual machine, along with several other interesting features. Oh, and this is what we're going to be using. So let's get started by bringing up VirtualBox. Normally when I go through here, I go through all of the basics. I don't usually customize very much, and it's extremely quick to get done. When this part here is finished, here we go. We do not want to start it just yet, so we're going to remove the check mark and then we're going to hit finish. Then we'll go back here and we're going to go to the extension pack I spoke to you about a moment ago to get installed, and we're going to do that first. However, as you'll see the prompt here on the screen, it's actually asking me about reinstalling. That would be because I had it previously installed on my system a moment ago. So I'm not going to reinstall it, but the moment you would get a prompt like this, it would ask if you want to install or cancel. You hit install. It's a one-click installation and you are finished from there. The next part of what we shall do is to get CSI Linux completely up and running. Oh, it's very simple. It's just a simple old double click. You'll be prompted with this here in front of you, which is to be able to change these settings within the virtual system. For example, with CPU, I would use all 12 cores I have available, and when it comes to RAM, it does suggest only 4 gigabytes of RAM. However, the desktop computer I'm currently using has 64 gigabytes of RAM, so I would tend to use something more along the lines of 14 gigabytes of RAM in that case. And then for the rest of the options here below, there's no need to change anything at all, and everything will then load for you properly. So you hit import, agree, and this should just take a moment. There we go. This is all now finished. I will bring this over to the screen we have here, and we can get started. please remember when you're coming into our distribution here for the very first time, our username and password are default just to be able to make it easier for everyone. So the username is CSI, and then the password is also CSI. It's all non-capitalization with no dots, no nothing. Once this is finished, you'll see here in a moment we're going to be prompted to put in the default password, but not on this screen. However, it's where some users tend to get confused. Everything is still in the process of booting up, and this here is the proper logo that you'll see. We're going to put in CSI. Here we go. And to get this really neat tool that Mr. Jerry Martin did with the distribution up and running here on the right hand side, it has to be my absolute favorite. It's what we call the CSI monitor. It'll show how long your system has been up for, it'll show your username, the time will have to be adjusted because it is a new setup. It shows your CPU usage, your CPU temperature, your RAM usage, and really neat things like that. But now that we have everything set up fully now in VirtualBox to be able to do all the neat things and all the learning that's going to come along with the rest of our videos, there's one thing that you need, or that I suggest you do to get started. And that would be to go down here to the terminal. You can either full size it or leave it as it was. And in some in the majority of distributions actually I'd say, the commands are all pretty generic in order to get the new updates, which is usually apt space get, get, and then it would be either upgrade or update. But here in CSI Linux, we've made things a little unique. It's just one word, power up. And then again, it's going to prompt you here for the default password, which again, for the moment, or at least on this distribution for the recording purposes, is still CSI. And this here can take a little while. So once this is done, your virtual machine will then reboot once. I would suggest going back into your terminal again, retyping power up. It'll again prompt you for the default password, which is CSI, and then from there you will be ready to go. And here we're going to have an outline on our tools on CSI Linux that you will see just over here on the right hand side. However, CSI Linux is constantly evolving, is a constantly evolving investigation platform for cyber forensics, focusing mostly on open source tools to help keep costs down while adding many levels of capabilities to your arsenal. It was built for those in the DFIR, law enforcement, investigative journalism, and researcher fields. And as I mentioned earlier, not just that as well, there are many different companies around the world that use CSI Linux, and even people who are just starting out and just learning are also using CSI Linux. So it really is a platform for everyone. And this is why we try and keep our case management system, which is one of our many custom tools, as up to date as possible, and again, which is why we have our Discord to be able to keep, I wouldn't say keep everyone in the loop, but to make our case management system even bigger and better than what it currently is. There's a very big list of communication tools to help everyone keep all of their information safe. For when gathering everything during your investigations, that's the one thing you want to be able to prove, is that the information you gathered, not only is it currently safe, but it has not been tampered with by either yourself or any other outside source. So when going to court, that is the one thing you really have to prove, is that the evidence you obtained has not been tampered with in any way, shape, or form. This platform also covers many online different sources, different topics for investigations. As mentioned before, it'd be open source investigations, social media, dark web, incident response, digital forensics, mobile forensics, malware analysis, threat intelligence, threat hunters, and there's many more. Sorry, threat hunting, and much more. And on the right hand side, you'll see some of the common categories in which that we have already for our tools. Now, when you go into the CSI tools, which is at the very top, the very first part that you open, this is here pretty much the basics of what you'll see. But going to one specific here, it's going to be Power Up. Upon opening up your CSI Linux for the very first time, you're going to want to open up Terminal and then type in Power Up. It'll ask you for the default password for the virtual machine, which is CSI, and then it'll start to update everything. All depending on... When it comes to encryption, KeePass is to store user account information and is really great to use with SockPuppet or even undercover accounts when doing your investigations. Medusa and Hydra are both online password cracking tools that support many different services. These are rarely used during an investigation for legal reasons, but can be used to test their own security. So if you believe that your account might be compromised, I would highly suggest taking one of these two tools, going onto your system, and giving it a shot. If you get authorization though from a court to be able to use these, and you have all of your legal papers already set up for an investigation, by all means, Medusa and Hydra are definitely going to be there to support everything you're trying to do. So here for our slide in open source intelligence investigation, we have here the FBI wanted list. That actually downloads the entire FBI wanted suspect list to your local computer, and then it starts to download the posters. It's pretty useful. You can see everyone that is currently wanted by the FBI, and for those people who want to practice their own open source investigation and investigation skills when helping to track down FBI criminals, it's pretty good for a learning experience. We also have the SockPuppet Builder. It's a CSI Linux tool that automates building a basic sock puppet and creates a dossier document for you to alter or build out that investigation personnel. Hunchly 2 captures website evidence for open source investigations and online investigations as well. This is now tied into the CSI Linux case management system as well. Domain open source investigation. Several tools designed to identify information about a domain, including registration information, along with possible subdomains associated with the main domain. The more information you know about a domain, the more complete your investigation may be. Tools like Megagoofil and SpiderPig attempt to locate and download files from that domain that have been indexed by Google. For our email section, a lot of the tools that are here will help you check to see if this email address is valid or if it has been in a breach leak. A breach leak would be a password leak. And here we're going to have social media investigations. And my favorite one on here is actually find user, because that right there, if you were to open it up in the terminal and then put in someone's first name and last name, it gives you every single thing across every network, every social media platform, against every gaming platform in the world as to what they have signed up for. But please make sure when you do use find user that the first name and the last name are typed in properly. But there's one thing I have to, well, not suggest, but there's one thing I have to say is the first name and last name. Yes, you might be looking for one specific person, but once you find your results, please continue to do your research, because a lot of people around the world, or at least within North America and parts of Europe, you will find some people here, there, and everywhere that have the same name and the same spelling. So before you grab your information from Find User and you try and report back to whoever it is you're reporting to, make sure you do the research and you use our other tools to find out this is indeed the person that you should be investigating. Otherwise, you might end up looking like a fool in the wrong one. This one here is for geological tracking. OpenStreetMap, Google Maps, CSI Geolocator. This is to be able to help find a lot of things over the world, and this also ties into a little bit of what we're doing in regards to threat intelligence. If you were to go in there on the CSI Linux distribution, you'll see a lot of the terrorist cells that we've been tracking around the world. So that right there will tie in together. I'm not going to get too much into this one because as it currently stands, we do not have a course for it. But if I'm not mistaken, give it about 6 to 8 months, we should be opening up a couple of things for this one shortly. Dark Web Hidden Service creates a Tor hidden service that can only be accessed from the dark web. It automates the process of setting up the Apache and getting the .onion website link. This allows you to use a safer method of communication or the ability to set up a dark market honeypot. The CSI Hades Project Search is a new feature that requires their API but can get access to their massive database of Tor sites, cryptocurrencies, and types of crimes they may be associated with, and hashes that could tie someone on the dark web to the surface web. Onion Search allows you to search several Tor search engines for keywords and adds those to your case. And now we're on to one of my favorite things that I could talk to you for hours on, which is going to be incident response. One of the best tools that I will always recommend to anyone and everyone for network forensics is going to be Wireshark. And after learning Wireshark over the past year and a half, I mean, it's opened up my eyes to a lot of what's going on in your local network, to what you people really don't know. And I'm proud to say that within CSI Linux in 2023, I'm going to be creating and bringing online my very own Wireshark course for everyone to take. So please, if anything, stay tuned for that one, and even feel free to contact me in Discord. I would love to talk to you about it. And getting back to our other things that we have here, we have system analysis for anti-malware. This can go from anything from an antivirus to custom firewalls. We have memory forensics, and don't get memory confused between your hard drives and RAM. Memory forensics actually is referring to the RAM within your computer, because there's a type of malware, even though you shut down your computer, you run your scans, and you do everything you have to do, will actually stay within your RAM, no matter what it is. So running memory forensics, whether it be on a weekly basis or every time you want to do a deep scan of your computer, really is very highly recommended. File recovery apps are just programs that tend to focus on target files or data. Now what I mean here by target files, it's going to be your file types. So if you want to be recovering PDFs, you can have it go for PDFs. If you want to go for MP4s, it's the same thing for MP4s. Foremost and Scalpel are data carving tools with multiple file type support, and just by opening up the program and go on in and have a look, and you'll be able to see the multitude of the file types that are currently supported. When it comes to mobile forensics, there are several different tools that we can use. The one here for WhatsApp, it opens up the WhatsApp database. It has a variety of different features on the inside. The APT tool allows you to reverse the APK files on an Android phone and an Android tablet. When we go down to the Elite, which is ALEAP, that opens up the Android images. We have Leap, LLEAP, which opens up the iPhone images. And then we have HIEMALL, HIEMALL, and this is to be able to root to Samsung devices. So it could be a Samsung phone or it can be a Samsung tablet. And then we have the Android Logical Imager and iOS Logical Imager. And this is to be able to take the images from the Android phones and Apple iPhones, and the image is pretty much what it says. It's the operating system of the device. Malware analysis. The APK tool is for the Android apps. We have JD-GUI, which is a tool for Java. Then we have some debuggers and some disassembles for the more advanced that are out there. Here we have signal intelligence. Wireless just converts over the 802.11 networking. As you can see, we have air with a star next to it. It's AirSniff and it cracks the wireless network keys. Kismet is an amazing wireless sniffer to find access points and clients. We also have Wi-Fi Pumpkin. That allows for more advanced wireless security assessments. We have here also SDR, but that does not touch the 802.12 networking. We have your average, or ordinary I should say, FM radio player if you just feel like listening to the radio station while you're using the distro. We also have a program here, signal and frequency scanners. Depending on what is around your area, you can listen to quite a few things going on, whether it be a police scanner, one for an airplane, you've got public security, and things like that. Our distribution is always improving, and if there's one thing that I'm going to mention, I think I've mentioned that already, two maybe, as I've mentioned I think maybe 2 or 3 times already, I think maybe even 4, is that we're always trying to improve, and that is where Discord for us comes in. And you'll see the Discord link there actually on the right hand side, and we're always listening to the community, we're listening to suggestions, we're trying to help out everyone as much as we can, whether having a problem just getting the image downloaded and installed and working properly, or it's even training questions when using the distribution as well. So every week, every month, every day, we're always on there, we're always listening. Jeremy Martin and myself are currently 2 of the more active people on Discord. So if you post something, chances are it goes straight to my phone and all 4 of my computers. And yes, you heard right. I've got 4 computers within one office. I see it on no matter what screen I'm looking at. And if I don't have the answer, right away I'm off and I'm bugging Jeremy, and we're trying to be able to figure it out and being able to help you out as best we can. So if you do have any questions, comments, and concerns, you can feel free to join us on Discord. You can send us an email at support@csilinux.com. We're always also on the lookout for people, kind of who would like to help. I started off a little over a year ago as a volunteer, giving in my time, my effort. I was testing out tools, I was trying to build a couple of tools, and then, a little over a year later, now I'm one of the educators and content creators here with Mr. Martin, which I must say is such an honor to be able to doing this with him, and seeing how the tool and distribution has progressed in the past year is beyond me. If you want to download also CSI Linux after watching the conference today, please head on over to csilinux.com. You'll see along the top of their browser there is a download button. Head there and then pick out which version you would like. We have it for the Oracle VM VirtualBox. We have it for VMware. And there's also a DD version as well, which is kind of putting CSI Linux onto your USB key and then using that USB key as your operating system. So try and make sure, if you're going to do it that way with the USB key, that it has at least 128 gigabytes of storage. And I say that because we're still working around with the CSI image. When it's sitting at somewhere around roughly 64 gigabytes, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But the reason why I recommend 128 is because you never know what you're going to do with the virtual machine. You might go off and you might right away, start your investigations. Or you might want to take a very broad look at all of your tools and start downloading quite a bit. So your USB key might actually start filling up a little quicker than you think. So with that, I would like to say thank you very, very much for watching this presentation. And for those of you that do join us in Discord, I look forward to hearing from you and speaking to you in the future. So thank you very, very much and have a pleasant day.